Hey, good morning, everyone. Well, I guess good evening, everyone.
Hey everyone, Dan joined. This is the part where I check if my mic is working.
You're good.
I'm good. Cool.
Damn it, you guys are so nice. I was just going to confirm Dan's mic's not working.
It's like he asks if it's working.
And you
And
say
And then
no.
that's when I say, yeah, no, Dan, your mic's not working. Can you try saying something else?
Okay, let's get started here. Just double checking if anybody replied to the
Dan, I
opens
believe
list.
Steve sent an email earlier stating that he is trying to get a Google Doc going to track meeting minutes and agenda.
Yeah, Steve, you want to say more about that?
yeah, sure. So I put together, it's just a publicly accessible Google Doc. I'm going to keep minutes in it. We could try to move to having the agenda items set there as well. If you have something out in advance, we should still send out a reminder email just before the meeting itself. But I think in the future, just to make sure that we actually keep track of everything, we don't lose things and don't lose track of things during the meeting. It's probably best if we do that.
Okay.
That seems pretty straightforward. I'm open to anything else if someone else has an idea for tracking minutes and agenda items. But
No, I'm totally open to that. Do you want to? I think I have your email. I'll start putting the agenda in the documents, so we have some kind of running notes there. But yeah, I have no problem with that.
sounds good.
Okay, I'll do the quick ground rules again, and then I'll circle back for more opens. But just a reminder, because I think I see some new names on the call. Just a reminder, this is an open source call. It's recorded. Do not share confidential information about platforms or specifications from other working groups that are also confidential. But yeah, treat this forum as just another place to have high bandwidth conversations about things that you would also just post a item to the mailing list about. But other than that, so we had the um, forward. Okay. Any other opens before I jump to this one about the BOF? And actually, before I do that, anybody who hasn't had a chance on a previous meeting to introduce themselves and wants to introduce themselves, go ahead and raise your hand, and I'll call you to do an introduction. Hey, Michael.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yeah, so just we just do name, organization, and what brings you to the call today.
Yeah. So name as you can see, Michael. I'm working for Bloomberg, but I'm not representing Bloomberg here. I'm a student, and I'm here primarily because I had contacted Samuel a while ago on research that I want to do towards my master's with regards to TIO, and he mentioned that here in the CCC kernel SIG group, this would be the place where the conversation happens about relevant work that is just happening in the field.
Yeah. Good deal. Yeah. This is a good place to listen in on some of the conversations. It's going to be fairly low level and execution oriented, but like, hey, we got to get this thing built next in that thing. So it will be like drinking from a fire hose at times, but you're definitely welcome to be here. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to just get a lot more context and getting up to speed with everything that is happening. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Everyone else looks like they've been here before. Okay. So we do have Linux Plumbers conference coming up in September. I'm actually late to submit the TIO talk for that, but I should submit that shortly. The other thing that's like Deval and I have been talking about is
Hold on, Dan.
Yeah.
Just we have a bunch of TIO talks. I'm actually planning to send those emails out, asking
Okay.
the TIO submitters to please combine their proposals, and I will include you in that so that you guys can coordinate.
Okay. But the expectation rate though is that the micro conference slots are really like 15 minutes, right? They're not super expensive.
Yeah, like about half an hour or so. Yes.
Yeah. So that while we have everybody there, we should try to. I don't know if we need to do a formal BOF or an informal one, but definitely I think like we're probably gonna have more than half an hour of things to talk about, and so you were suggesting like we maybe even try to get together before the micro conference and then do a report out, more of a report out in the micro
Right.
conference.
So let me actually concretize that proposal slightly more,
Okay.
right? So the way it's scheduled right now, I've been informed that the confidential computing microconference is most probably going to be Friday afternoon. The response to the microconference was actually pretty robust. We have a lot of proposals. So we don't have a lot of time if we want to get most of them in. So Dan and I had a separate discussion earlier this week where we're proposing some sort of a formal BOF so that it's on the schedule. Probably have an agenda coming over from one of these calls, high bandwidth discussion, and follow that up with a readout at the microconference. And maybe follow-up discussions as needed. Dan, did I capture that correctly?
Capture it correctly, and I think it sounds good. So I think for the people on this call, is just basically keep your eyes open for that, and let's try to get together at Plumbers. We right now we have this call scheduled for the August 2nd, for the kind of the Euro time zone friendly time slot. We could do another meeting in August, and then I'm assuming that we would kind of take September off just for Plumbers. Shall I go ahead and schedule the mid-August call as well?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'll work with the Linux Foundation to get that added to the list.
As an aside,
Mhm.
is Dan Middleton on the call?
I don't see Dan today.
Okay.
Only one Dan today.
Okay, I mean, just an aside, I don't know the right person to reach out to. Probably Dan is the right person, but there is a confidential compute conference or or a summit or something like that happening on the Thursday as part of Open Source Summit. It looks like you need to be registered to Open Source Summit in order to attend that one. I was just wondering if it's possible to extend that to LPC as well. LPC registration plus something extra.
Oh, yeah, that's something we probably need to take offline. But yeah,
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good. I captured that as yeah. You mean like can they get in if they already haven't if they haven't separately registered for OSSEU? Yeah.
I'm gonna post a question to Dan on the CCC Slack also.
Okay.
Sorry, that was Ravi, not Dhaval.
Oh, Ravi, sorry.
Also, Dhaval can post it as well.
I was.
Oh, I'm
when-
not
when-
on the Slack, so I'm on the Discord,
Oh.
not on the Slack.
Okay.
When I switch screens to type in I can't see who's talking, so I apologies.
Okay, I just sent him a message. Hopefully he'll respond to that.
Okay. Any other comments about Linux plumbers planning or any other opens besides the kind of topics I have to talk about today? Okay, so it's been a while since we last talked, but like there's been some upstream movement, and one of the things I've been waiting for to have some more concrete things to talk about what is the ABI going to be, especially around device attestation, is this patch set that Lucas Vunner has been working on around native CMA, component measurement and authentication. Yes, when we do TIO, all of that is handled by the platform TSM module, but in terms of an ABI for how do you communicate certificates, how do you communicate measurements, how do you communicate nonces across to the kernel, we want to reuse what Lucas is doing for the CMA case. So I don't have much to share there. So I on the mailing list I posted a link to the patch set, but other than that, yeah, I'll just kind of waiting for other people to jump in on the review there for that implementation. Yeah, so yeah, any questions or comments about the SPDM ABI? We can walk through that, but really this is more just kind of an announcement of, hey, check out that patch set, and we can go from there. So
I'm jumping in and say, like, it more broadly, I actually do think it is interesting to bring up patches that we should kind of get attention to in general, because sometimes it's easy to let these things like slip, and we might need a bunch of reviewers that can ensure they look good. And so one of the things I do want to bring up more broadly is just like, hey, we should talk about this patch set, but like I'd like to highlight like what other patch sets are coming or are out there that need reviewers that we should try to get people's attention onto. I think that's a good thing this meeting can do, because there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. There's a lot of stuff I would be very interested to see make progress upstream, and making sure we actually get reviewers and people testing is going to be pretty important, so these things actually make it in. It's a meta comment, but it's the thing I do want to bring up here.
Hi, this is Alexei, and so I'm doing my SafetyIO thingy, like for a guest and secure with IO and all that stuff. And I tried my stuff on top of Lucas's stuff, and I couldn't get any certificates or measurements from my device because, according to Lucas, and he's right, my device misbehaves because it's based on old libspdm and all that. So I couldn't really get to the point when I get some bits and pieces which I could share with this native device authentication. So I'm planning on getting back to that this week or next week. That's pretty much why I'm quiet today or in general.
no worries. Do you think
And I was also wondering if there is a device which behaves, which I could buy and plug into my box and just play with it. Do we know any TDS enabled device in the wild?
Not TDIS, but I know that like the Western Digital folks have been looking to enable SPDM, not PCI SPDM, but just talking over like security send, and so like those are the example devices that support SPDM.
And they're available for purchase.
I don't know, like that'd be something I need to check with the Western Digital folks. I think they.
I was hoping some of them are here and can tell us.
I don't know if they're here, but we can circle back about them.
Okay.
The other question I kind of had for Lucas was, can we relax the implement? Like, I know he has some strict requirements in there. I wonder if we can just create a debug mode that allows testing against the SPDM, libSPDM target. But yeah, but in general,
That's how he tests now. I think
right.
he has libSPDM and QEMU, and there is some emulated device which implements the SPDM responder part.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That the device you have access to right now is not doing this, not behaving the same as libSPDM.
Mine is physical. It's basically FPGA with some libSPDM running inside, but just using older SPDM, which is known to have bugs. And updating libSPDM on the device is not as easy as in QEMU, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we want to do with get this notification out of here is like whether we can get this into QEMU, or if like part of one of the things that I'm trying to build is a implementation, kind of a vanilla implementation of a TSM, and have that be able to kind of exercise some of these flows without needing to have hardware. But yeah, in the meantime, like, yeah, the best we can do right now is just build the APIs and interfaces based on libSPDM, and then figure out later how we're going to fix up the compatibility with real devices. So go ahead.
My imagination fails me because our TSM is not on the host; it's on PSP. You would have to do the same, implement the same guy in QEMU, emulate PSP. You don't want to go that far.
I don't want to go that far. Yeah, I'm thinking thinking something more like intercepting the layer between the PCI core and where it talks to the top of the TSM driver. I wish I could draw a picture, but like basically that's one callback, and instead of having that callback go and actually talk to the PSP or talk to the TDX module or talk to the whatever TSM is, it's just like a unit test. It just returns a mocked payload back, and so yes, it doesn't let you test the actual low level operations, but it lets you pretend that, like, it lets you test all the generic pieces, so that the Linux PCI core thinks that it did a connection, and VFIO thinks it has a VF to assign. So I'm still building that. I'm not sure how useful it's going to be, but at a minimum, it's going to be able to at least allow us to exercise all of the sysfs ABIs. But it's, yeah. On the last call, Samuel was talking about, or he was pointing to, or kind of a work in progress QEMU TSM implementation. I don't know how far that's gotten, but I think it's going to be a case of all the above. Like, any angle you can test this stuff by any means, like it's all good. We'll try to get in there.
Dan, did Samuel mention a QEMU DSM or did you mean DSM or?
I'm looking at. I think you mentioned on the DevSec chat called Salus.
Right. Yeah, Salus is a TSM. Okay, so he was talking about the TSM side, not the DSM side. I just want to confirm.
Not the DSM side. Yeah, the
Okay.
TSM side. I'm assuming that for these tests that we would either fake out the DSM or fake out the TSM, or like we're going to have different levels of pretending something on the other end until we actually have until like everybody who's working on this can actually have a setup, which I don't think it's going to happen for a long time. So we're going to have to build things based on models. Yeah, but yeah, Alexia, I'm glad you immediately grabbed Lucas's patch and started trying it out. That's so yeah, for everybody else, like that's what I'm really the reason I'm highlighting it here is I wanted feedback on how Lucas is proposing that certificates, measurements, and transcript are going to show up in SysFS, and whether we can just directly reuse that for the TSM case, or we need to build something different. And if we need to build something different, can we get that feedback back to Lucas so that anything that understands how to interface with these files or interfaces doesn't need to learn, oh, you're a TSM, oh, you're SPDM native. Like it should just work without that level of detail. So I'm going to jump ahead down to this other conversation that happened as part of going through Lucas's patch, and Lucas and I are having a debate about how modular the CMA stuff should be. I think Alexi and I are kind of like, hey, Lucas, can you just make this modular? It would kind of help with development, but also I think it would help with some of that gives some of the policy. But during that conversation, we kind of veered off into a tangent about what actually does CMA protect against, and CMA doesn't it does let you authenticate the mailbox, and if the mailbox and if that authentication reference has a subject alternative name in the certificate, you can kind of match that to the config space and say, oh yeah, this is a certificate for this device, but you can't do any of it. It doesn't give you any trust in the bus like that we all know comes from full TDISP. And so it was kind of we went off into a tangent about like what actual protections does it offer and how does this all work. And then Jason Gunthorpe asked the question about like how does this work? Like what is the protection model? And we got into like he put up this contrived scenario of a device that is not attested, not trusted, can't talk to confidential memory. Boots up in that mode, does a DMA mapping, and then some point later, it does become trusted, and is basically enabled to send T=1 traffic. So he's basically looking at like what happens to the DMA API across the T=0 to T=1 transition, sending traffic. And the point was that things are going to blow up if you don't match your lifetimes correctly. Like if you have a DMA mapping from the T=0 case, and then you try to free it after your device has gone into the T=1 case, that mapping is probably not valid anymore, and these kind of things. And so, kind of the punt or the hack or the hedge to get things started was just kind of saying like, you know what, let's for the first implementation of this, let's not even entertain the idea that the device is going to dynamically switch to these modes or being able to do both modes at the same time without some level of violence. But the only point of inflicting that, so the violence we're talking about is if you want your device to switch from a mode where it's going from t equals 0 to t equals 1, maybe you need to rebind your device, or maybe we need to even go further and like do a soft replug of the device, something like that, just so when we talk to the DMA API people, we don't need their buy-in on day one to absorb that complexity. We can just say, here's your device. You can do a conversion. The conversion has some violence associated with it. You have to rebind your driver at least. But then at least we have all the mechanisms. Like we have fully plumbed how to do shared devices talking to untrusted memory and a guest, and we have fully plumbed how to do private devices. And then we could have from there have the next level conversation with, okay, like what does it mean to be able to switch between those modes without rebinding the driver? And then like the expert mode, or the conversation after that, is how do we allow, or how does the DMA API consider the case of a device that is going to mix its traffic? It's going to send some t equals 0 traffic and do some public DMA, and then it's going to at the same time have valid mapping so it can do t equals 1 traffic, and just switch and just mix its work stream at runtime. I think we want to get there. I just did I lose? I just lost the screen. Did I lose the meeting? You guys back?
We're still
No,
here.
we're here.
We are
Okay.
global.
Yep.
So,
I think my house power just swapped, so I think the laptop stayed connected, but looks like it disappeared. But yeah, so I was saying that, yeah, so it was kind of the first contact with the like what was it, Mike Tyson? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. It wasn't really a punch, but it was basically the first kind of encounter of somebody saying, "Hey, I'm from the IMU side, and I don't want to think about what you're talking about of how to use conversion." And I think, and that's fair. I think we can make a lot of progress.
Well, on my system, what I have, so in my exercise, I choose in the beginning if it's going to be trusted device or not, and then I do all secure DMA or all plain DMA, and I don't allow switching, because in order to do so, I would need VIUMMU in the guest. So the guest could decide which memory has CBIT and which doesn't. So IUMMU people cannot avoid this, on AMD at least. So they will have to have this knowledge at some point.
I think they'll have to have the knowledge at some point, but do they need to have it on day one of the implementation? Like, can we get by with a device's either or, and you need to do a pretty deep process to convert a device?
On day one, they need to know on the host which memory is private and which is shared.
Right.
To do the mapping on hard IUMMU. But that's fairly small change.
But longer term, the possibility of supporting both at the same time or switching dynamically, that needs a VIMU to be fleshed out, right?
So switch dynamically all traffic to private and then back to shared, all of it. That would mean stopping the device, doing the switch, and resuming the device, which doesn't seem like a big deal.
Okay.
But if you want mixed DMA, then yes, VIMMU is the way to go.
So, but this comes up in the context of what happens with page conversions. So you boot up with some amount of shared memory, private memory, and then some of that is dynamically converted to private, or private to shared, or shared to private, or back and forth over and over again. What guarantees do we make to device drivers? And I think the simplest proposal to start is, if you're a private device, you'll get access to newly converted private memory, but you will not get access to but you lose all access to shared memory. Like we're not going to guarantee that if you access shared memory that you DMA to it, you won't be able that when you're in the private mode you'll be able to DMA to it.
That's correct today. Yes.
I have a really naive question. What happens if you try to write t=1 to a shared page? It seems like that might be a violation of kind of expectations, but I might be missing something.
Although you'll get IMMU MP fault on AMD system.
Okay.
IMMU will try and do RMP check and barf on it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think almost all the implementations I've seen, you have explicit, like that T-bit is routing you to the IMU tables, and you wouldn't have it would be like, there's no mapping for you here.
I mean, that makes sense for the inverse, right? Because like if you did a t=0, right? I don't. Anyway, I know. Yeah, makes sense.
But that I think there's use cases that need to like the main use case that we need to figure out what to do is we're a private device and something bad happens and now we got to recover. How do we is that recovery going to just be having to stop the device and start over, or can we do something finer grained recovery to be like, hey, all the way up and all the way including like, can we reestablish IDE and bring the device context back? But again, I think that's another place where it's going to be that the end goal is going to be you can pop out of private mode, do some shared operations and get yourself back into private mode without needing to stop the world. But V1 is probably stop the world, reassign, get your TDI back into a run state and then start up again.
What device would actually want this though? Like, what would want to kind of be toggling back and forth when a single connection to a single like trusted or like single VM? That seems like it would be surprising to me at the very least. At least for I don't know, most common devices.
Yeah, I mean for the air handling case, like you can think that every device wants that, right? That you kind of want to so like, well, I mean, so I'm aware of cases where even getting to the point where you can actually run the attestation flow, you actually need to actually do some shared operations to get the device into that, like the assigned device into that state, because you can't depend on the PF driver having done that for you. And so then you get to that kind of foundational state where you are able to run the bind flow and do the full attestation flow, but you want to kind of give up on your T=0 traffic and go over to the T=1. I think the other use case that I'm imagining is devices that consume large resources, like that there's the overhead of securing that, or if you have some other kind of software encryption on top of that, that you might want to participate in a shared memory pool for some operations, and then have the driver kind of bounce buffer that into the private side. But these, yeah, if anybody else wants to say a case, they can. But those are the ones I kind of understand that we need to get to. But along those lines of how do we make even the shared device assignment case within the presence of confidential memory, like just make that work? Like this is like the before TIO case. I think we have work to do. I'm looking at the kind of the preview AMD tree and looking at the Intel preview tree, and it's a kind of a pile of hacks right now to get a shared device in there. Then basically don't blink at it too much and don't do too much shared to private conversion. But the patches are probably we're going through internal review here on those. But Chen Yi from Intel team has some. He's not on the call today.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen your email.
Yeah. It was very late notice. So yeah. But I think we're nearing the point where I think we can discuss those in public, and he has a proposal for an updated RAM discard manager. I'll stop there, but and let the patches speak for themselves when they come out. But I think this is a shared component that nobody else has proposed a fix for, and so I think it's something everybody needs. So be on the lookout for those. But that's kind of all I had. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the approach we were talking about with this having device conversion be an explicit step, just like memory conversion is an explicit step, and devices are either TDIs are either 100% one or the other to start, and then we can, once we get that like in tree, then we can start having the conversation about, hey DMA API folks, like what if we don't have to actually remove and restart the device to get this to do the conversion? We can do something like dynamically ask to switch over to the new model, and that switch will have we'll just check to make sure that all the old, like, so if you're going from untrusted world to trusted world, you could ask for that conversion, and it would double check that you've unmapped all your old untrusted world mappings. So something like that. But another idea I wanted to throw out there is or a question, the theoretical question, like how difficult would it be for a device, like if you want, let's say you have a PF, you want to pass through the whole device. How difficult would it be for that device to actually pass through two interfaces, like a public and a private, and then basically push the problem to the driver to talk to each other if they need to, but you don't need to stress out the Linux DMA APIs, because you actually have you have two TDIs. One is a private TDI, one is a shared TDI, and those two trusted drivers can talk to each other in software. But they would have a shared understanding of how to carry that out. Like, basically the question is, do we actually have a use case outside of is it just a simple matter of hardware to have a private and a shared side of a device? do we or do you really need a TDI to be ambidextrous in the t equals 0 t equals 1 case? But that's a kernel person throwing out wishes that I don't know if hardware can satisfy or not. But in the in the near term, yeah, I think it has to be this kind of simplified case of one or the other.
I saw a picture mentioning discard manager. Is it discard manager in QEMU?
Yes, yeah. So this proposal that's coming out is a 100% QEMU patch set about how to handle it. Yeah.
So we have this discard manager, and my colleague Niraj, I think, wrote some to do actually the opposite thing, to map in VFIO only shared memory when we run SNP guest. And now I'm converting it to do the opposite, map private memory. And my problem with it is like the whole discard manager needs to decide what's actually considered discarded, private or shared. Is there any plan to teach discard manager of like 3 states of a page? Private, shared, and discarded. Or one bit is enough? Is anyone hacking on this?
To be fair, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I think we have the same I think concern. I think the memory discard and populate and shared and private, and these are two different things. So yeah, so I think it is also unopen to us. Yeah, I think we should discuss in the public manager to decide which way to go. Yeah.
Is part of that? Is part of that covered in the patch set? Like, so yeah, I haven't looked at it yet. But is that concern addressed, or is that a separate concern?
We have some patch to address it, but we didn't post it to the internal manager. We just share a link to it. Yeah, very simple patch. The idea is we can, and I think we can. So as you know, so the RAM discard manager, I think it will send a notification when, for example, memory hot plug or page conversion happen. Then it will send a notification to VFIO to unmap or map some shared memory. And so currently, so it's just a notification. So we plan to extend this notification to carry one more argument to identify whether it's, for example, memory plug or unplug event or page conversion event, something like this. We have some implementation.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Part of the reason for bringing that up here was also to have the discussion in this forum about, like, within Intel, we're conscious of not trying to flood Paolo and Sean with patches, and so right now we're kind of doing a temperature check on what we think Paolo's current loading is, and from our perspective, from the Intel perspective, it looks like an okay time to post this patch set. So we were going to go ahead, but yeah, but this is something where I think it's useful for us as a community to talk and make sure that we are feeding, like that we're not flooding up mainline with patches to review. But this one's definitely kind of in Paolo's sphere to review. and it seems to be like, to me, if I think we can't really get too far down the TIO enabling path until until the shared device use case is solid, and we don't have remaining concerns there. So
you're posting patches soon?
Soon, yeah. So I'm gonna take a look at them, but I don't see much blocking those going out by the latest next week. At the latest, maybe earlier.
Okay.
But you mentioned the patch set for Niraj. Is that on the list, or was that internal?
I think it's internal.
Okay. Well, yeah. So then I was gonna say we could take a look at that one too. But yeah. Otherwise, yeah. We'll get this out there.
It is in my tree, so.
Okay. I mean, so okay.
In my QEMU tree on GitHub.
Okay. That kind of raises another question, but I think it's a bigger question, and it also kind of previews something I wanted to bring up in either in the BOF or at LPC, is about when would we consider sharing staging trees? Like I think it's very useful to have. Here's what the Intel set looks like. Here's what the AMD set looks like. Here's what the Revo set looks like. But it's like at some point it all has to go upstream, and maybe it helps to collect those together. And because I think it'd be useful to say, hey Paolo, like multiple vendors are using this QEMU staging tree, and has some positive test results there. I think that's useful. That'd be something I'd want to hear as a upstream maintainer, like, oh, you guys already got your act together and are trying out these things. So
I'm sharing mine. So.
Yep. Yeah. yeah. You're sharing yours. Intel has one too. But yeah. I'll send you a note about some ideas about how we can maybe collaborate more going forward.
And I imagine that email will be on the mailing list.
Yeah.
I will say, I do appreciate when people share things earlier, even if it's like moderate improvements over earlier versions, because there's a bunch of times where we want to be using something that's kind of fairly new and kicking the tires and testing things out, and using older versions is always a little bit unsatisfying, and having to maintain like code against those older versions is pretty hard to do. So
yeah, but I also assume it's fatiguing to have to understand, like, oh, which baseline did this vendor that we're kind of evaluating their solution today, where did they put their QEMU? Like, so I'm hoping that some unity there would actually make people's lives easier. I know that Sean and Paolo run the KVM Coco Q branch, which is like the kind of preview staging that feeds into Linux Next. Is there a similar thing for QEMU, or is that pretty much it? Patches just kind of stay on the list until they get pulled into a upstream branch? I'm brand new to QEMU development.
My understanding is that Paolo picks up all the QEMU patches that are destined to KVM, or rather KVM patches for QEMU, and then passes that on to the QEMU maintainer. And I also think the KVM Q is maintained by Paolo and not by Sean.
Okay.
But I could be wrong there.
I think you're right. Okay. Yeah. So I mainly wanted to highlight those two kind of major discussions to have on the list, and preview this RAM disk card manager thing coming out. Any other concerns that people thought of during my rambling today? I did, so kind of related to the SBDM ABI review thing, and we'll try to get Lucas's feedback here. In the next, he should be able to join this call next time. But I think there was a project called TDM that's out there that seemed like it was something that was kind of waiting for a kernel ABI to show up. I don't know if is that project still going, or is it anybody aware of that project? I think it's part of the competition containers project, but it's a user space framework for kind of doing device attestation and coordinating that. But but yeah, so
Dan, we'll have to ask Samuel. He's not on, unfortunately, right now.
okay.
He's probably the one who's been doing something with it. So
Okay. So yeah, so maybe it's a matter of getting Samuel to look at what Lucas is proposing and see if it can fit into that model. But I'm kind of hopeful or assuming that once you point this, once CDM figures out how to get the measurements and certificates, that the rest is all user space stuff.
and you meant the this is the TIO manager, right?
I think it's the TIO manager. Yeah.
Or device assignment. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, but now is the time for anybody who's have been thinking about user space frameworks to start evaluating the kernel ABIs to see if they meet their needs. The big blind spot for me is how have vendors packaged up their measurements and their measurement transcript, and is that something that we can export in a vendor agnostic way, or is there a technology specific way to do each of these things, which I hope is not the case, but I worry that's the case. Just something to keep an eye on going forward. Okay. It sounds like no straggling opens. So yeah, look for that discard manager thing on the list. If you're not actually, if Michael is still here, I'm gonna post a invite to a Discord channel. If you actually, I think I'm not sure if they have the Discord channel already on the CCC site, but
Sam invited me to Discord channel, and I think I can see your conversation there with SIG and CXL.
Okay, you're already there.
Wait, before we go, I do want to emphasize one thing. Since are there any patch series that people care about that are stagnating right now? Because I think one thing that's happened every once in a while is things will go upstream, they'll sit around, no one will comment on it, and it probably could use feedback, and we might just need attention for it. And so I just want to see if there's any patches that people are worried about that we should just mention, because we can try to find more reviewers if we need people. The answer might be nothing right now, but I do want to bring this up because it's pretty easy, I think, for patches to slip through the cracks.
I'm putting your name in the Rolodex to remember that when things stagnate. I to my knowledge, like everything that, I mean, there are patches that we're holding back while waiting for digestion about some other things, like especially on the TDX side. There's active development on some of the base stuff where it's like maybe I shouldn't be posting TDX Connect things until base TDX is going. I'm assuming that's kind of that similar dynamics are happening with other technologies, but yeah, I think we're getting attention there. But For anybody on the recording, if you have a patch that that needs attention, reach out to Steve just to try to coordinate some other reviewers. Thanks for the offer, Steve. Okay, yeah, we'll see you guys again in a couple weeks on the year-friendly call, and then yeah, I'll schedule another mid-August one, and then after that we'll see you in Plumbers. Have a good rest of your evening or the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye then.
Bye.
Bye everybody.
Thanks. Bye.